And we're back with some more oxygen not included on Badlands. Max Hunger Edition. Today, though, today it's time to melt some rust. We want to hook up this volcano to a rust melter. Now, been doing some playing around in the background in a debug map to try and figure out how to melt rust, which was fun. I think I've got an idea that will work. Well, it should work. The first thing, though, is I need to get rid of this oil, which I have been ignoring because it's full of zombie spores. This is the only zombie spore infection I found, and I managed to destroy the plant diagonally. So, yeah, there's also some carbon dioxide in there, but all of that got eaten by slicksters. So the only thing left is some contaminated oil. We're going to mop that up, and we're going to dump it into space. That should be the end of it. I've already got a bottle opener set up in space to go take care of that. Let's just make sure we follow this one. I want to make sure that they take it. Where are you? No, that's not. Where did they put it all? Oh, I really hope they put it up to the top of the map. I set it over here, so all the crude oil should get dumped off at this spot. Churns? Yes, perfect. Okay, so it'll all get dropped off there. We won't have to worry about it again. However, that does leave us with... Ooh, 1 second. Just wanted to check out how the cargo rockets are getting along. The timers on those seem to be working out, though I've let them go a little bit fast for the time being. Where were we? Now, yes. Rust melter. We're going to tack on a rust melter onto the side of this, but it's going to be a dual function. We're going to melt all the rust first, and then we're going to switch it over to doing regolith when the time comes. So rust-wise, we've got about 570 tons of this stuff. And I think we've dug up all the rust on the map. I'll have to double check. But the first things first, I think, yeah, I'm just going to vacuum out this entire area. I'd prefer to work in a vacuum than have to, put in small areas. So I think we're just going to seal it off here. Maybe seal it off there, and then just scoop out everything that's in there. All right, just about ready to turn on the gas pumps, but a few things to make sure before you vacuum out an area. Make sure you find all those little gas pockets that are hiding around, say here, oh, and that one right there. Because those things will come back to bite you when you suddenly those break open and you accidentally end up releasing just a tiny bit of gas that spreads all over the place, meaning you have to vacuum the whole place out again. So let's connect all the power. I think we've got these all yet. The cables have been pre-built. They're only one tile away. Done, and done. All right, that will start vacuuming the place out. Why did all of you stop? Oh, seriously? No one finished those? 1 second. I'll set those to a priority 6. That's my bad. I should have prepped that in advance. Now, I know this looks like a brute force solution to just vacuum out this entire area. Now, it's not that I'm not aware of subtlety. I know subtlety exists, and there are subtle ways of doing things. People have told me about it. It's just, it seems like an awful lot of effort. I mean, I could just throw in all these gas pumps and, go off and take care of something else, which would be, say, taking all this liquid out of here. And we're going to dump that into some liquid tanks over there. So I can go off, and when I come back, this will be all done. It'll be all vacuumed out, and then we can get around to putting in the rust melter. Which at the same time, I should probably go around and make sure there's no more rust left on the map. Yeah. We'll skip forward. We'll cut back in when we've got some more. When we've got the vacuuming finished. Would you look at that? A beautifully vacuumed out room. We can do whatever we want in here. At the same time, I've got a couple of liquid pumps down here. We're going to get rid of all of those nasty liquids that are in here and dump them into the storage containers over there. We might just dump all the liquids around the map into storage containers, just because we don't need the crude oil. We're not running any petroleum rockets. We're not running any petroleum fuel sources. I'm trying to think of something to do with all the crude that's lying about the place, but dumping it into space, I'm not quite sure, and that feels wasteful. There's going to be something we can do with it. It's going to make a sour gas boiler, but I'm not going to burn the natural gas anyway. Just going to make a sour gas boiler and then dump the natural gas into space. That would just be, doing something for the sake of stupidity. Never mind. I'm going to get rid of a whole bunch of the resources in here and free up a bunch of space just so that we have a full build area ready for our install. Would you look at that? A nice, pristine build area, ready to go. I've got the dupes running around back and forth to make sure we tidy up the last of the junk. Let's tidy up all of that remaining water and stuff that's in there. And we're going to start a little bit of a build. Now, we're going to use one I made earlier. So, arrows? Nope, not that. There we go. That looks about the right size. No. Over there. Up, one. Yep, all right. So yeah, this is one I practiced in debug mode, and we've just managed to squeeze it in there nice and neat. I'll have to make a few changes here so this can be built from the outside, and this will be interesting. Hopefully this should work. I think we'll skip it forward a bit. There's no need for you to see the basics of this going in. I'm just going to leave some gaps here so that people can get in and out. It shouldn't be that... It's pretty straightforward, to be honest, melting the rust. Few things I should point out while this is being built. All of these metal tiles in there, they're all made of steel. All the conveyor rails used throughout this entire system, these ones here, they're all made out of steel. The auto sweepers, the conveyor loaders, they're made of thermium though. So those three are made of thermium, and everything in here, all the automation wires, all that stuff, also made of steel. We're going to hook that up to there, and I'm going to have to do some diagonal building to open up that magma tank, but this should strap on quite nicely. Perfect. Oh, and this over here is 80 tons of steel. I set this up to be a level 4 command a while back, and they filled them all up. So now we have 80 tons of steel nice and close by. Hopefully this shall be built fairly quickly. A few well-chosen priority 6 commands, and that's going together really quickly. They've put together most of the ladders. I prioritized the ladders to get the scaffolding up and running. I wanted this thing, the guts of it outlined so they could move back and forth more easily. Yeah, I think. Okay, I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. One thing we need to do, though, is I need to build in some sort of disposal unit. Oh, that's done. 1 second. I need to build a disposal unit for the magma. When we're melting rust, we are going to go through a lot of magma very quickly. The regolith is much more efficient and should be completely sustainable by one volcano. Well, I think so. We'll find out later, I suppose. But the rust is definitely going to go through a lot of magma. Also, the first 2 batches of magma that we throw into this are going to get immediately consumed just to warm up the machine. Let me think about what we're going to add on here. Got a little distracted by micromanaging this build. It seems my dupes keep trying to kill themselves or get themselves trapped in wrong locations. But some priority building, and we've got things about right. Now, this thing looks a little bit odd, but it's actually fairly straightforward. We're going to have the rust come in one direction, and it will go all the way around and come up here, and it will get melted in this sort of this E-shaped melter here. And then it'll pour down here, get picked up by some auto sweepers we're going to install up here, and those auto sweepers will whisk it onto the rails, and it will go counterflow the opposite direction, back up through these metal plates, exchanging temperatures with the incoming rust, and should hopefully cut down on our energy costs. Now, it won't be perfect. I didn't make this the perfect rust melter. It's designed to be a good regolith melter, but it'll do rust just fine. It's just going to cost us an awful lot more power than if we were a lot more careful about it. Now, all of that's in place. What am I missing? I forgot to put in the door, didn't I? Yeah, there's always a few things you're going to forget. I'll skip this forward a bit more for the time being. I have my dupes dropping off a whole bunch of rust up here. We're going to have all the rust stored down there. And we'll have to install some auto sweepers and a few bits and bobs to make sure it all works. Down here, I'm actually going to stick down some visco gel. The reason being, this will act as a temperature transfer medium. So when we put in the auto sweepers and the conveyor loader here, this will take care of them. Or this should allow us to dump temperature through them. And yeah, we're going to put in some visco gel on this one as well. Right there, we have a nice blob of liquid. That should allow some decent temperature transfer. Then shipping, grab a couple of auto sweepers. We're going to make them out of thermium. I don't think we need to, but I'd prefer to be safe rather than sorry. And I should leave this... I'm going to leave this accessible so that you can get in and out of it, just in case something does go wrong. That should go right there. Boom. Right, so it's going to be iron, but later on it's going to be igneous rock that's going to be coming out of here. But iron will first get swept up into there, and that will counterflow all the way along here. Where we dump it out, I haven't decided just yet. The rust is going to come in from up there, though I may end up moving that closer. We'll have to see. For the time being, though, I do need a few other things to get done. I need to seal this up, and I also need to get in some doors over this side. Would you look at that? The whole thing has taken wonderful shape. Over here, we should be ready to diagonally deconstruct that block. Then we can, we're going to open this from the outside without hopefully having to send a dupe all the way down to the bottom there to deconstruct a tile. That would be unpleasant for the duplicant involved. Now, though, this is going to be spitting out a lot of magma, and we need some way of disposing of it. I'm thinking the simplest thing to do is just to build a little steam turbine power geothermal thing here. Just make sure that it can handle an awful lot of heat. That will be next up on the agenda. This one, I don't have a pre-built one in mind, so I suppose we'll just be using one of our generic ones. And here we go. It looks quite bulky. There's going to be 5 steam turbines here. The magma should flow down here, end up getting dumped into sort of a steam chamber here. We have to consume the magma as fast as it comes down. So we'll have it all dumped in there. There'll be some sort of steam room here, and then we'll siphon that heat into this room to run these turbines. And we'll have it variably turn on or off depending on how much temperature there is in the steam room, depending on how much magma was dumped in. It'll be fairly straightforward. Now, Just trying to make sure there's nothing I'm forgetting. Yeah, who am I kidding? There's always something I'll forget. I'll just have to make sure I can get back in here and service things. This is going to be very tricky, though. I'm going to have to find some way. I should probably leave some way in here, like maybe put in a visco gel lock just to make sure I can get back in here again in case I mess this up. This area is going to have to be pressurized with a gas. Actually, you know what? Let's not pressurize this with a gas. Let's use a liquid. Yeah, let's leave a little bit of blobs of liquid on the floor. This has been recommended to me several times and I've never done it, but I'd like to give it a shot. We'll put in a thin layer of liquid and we'll cool that liquid down to help keep the steam turbines from overheating. Right there, you'll see a thin layer of liquid along the bottom. That is super coolant. And if we just grab up the, say, the liquids overlay, there we go. That should help keep them cool. And our little cooling loop will go right through it. I've even installed all the super coolant there, pumped it in. Yeah, I sort of got too late last night for me to be talking loudly to myself, and I didn't want to keep anyone awake, so I just kept building a little bit longer than I should have. So unfortunately, I've skipped by a couple of things. Another thing I discovered was I hadn't researched the automation ribbon. Yep, turns out I completely blanked that research. Oops. Anyway, there is now an automation ribbon installed here. It can carry up to 4 signals, which is great. We have 4 signals we want to carry here. One of them goes over to each one of these, and they're set to a few different temperatures, 300, 400, 500, and 600. This just means when this place gets really hot, as it gets hotter and hotter, more and more of these turbines will come on to eat all the heat. And I should probably stop these. I think we have enough water in here. This here is going to be our heat storage tank. All the waste magma out of this will get dumped in here and instantly turned into debris over in this corner. It's just the fastest way to do things. Should I put a metal tile in there? That might be an idea to help speed up temperature transfer. That's where all the igneous rock debris is going to sit, so maybe, put a metal tile in there that'll help drag it down. Okay, that's that all done. Our melter's ready to go. I think all we have to do is just do some sealing up in a few strategic spots, and we should be good to fire this sucker up. Yeah. Let's give this a shot, shall we? Wait, there's always a few bits and bobs I forget. One, I've sealed it up just to prevent gases getting in to mess this whole thing up. At the same time, I need to put in a little bit of a cooling solution over here. I think I could actually have tapped it into this if I had planned ahead better, but I'm going to instead put a little minor cooling solution here to make sure that these auto sweepers stay cool. It's not going to be a big deal. Tiny little thing over this side. So this little steam turbine here is going to provide cooling for both of these auto sweepers and this conveyor loader. They basically cool down this lump of visco gel, which cools everything in here. Also, we'll be doing some other cooling later, but that won't be relevant until after we're finished melting all the rust on this map. Up here, where is it? Yes, I've run a gas pipe to pressurize that area. Let's throw in some oxygen, shall we? Yeah, I think that's a good plan. Right, that will send down some oxygen. Well, it would if I hadn't put that bridge on the wrong way. Well, that will send down oxygen to the steam turbine so that the steam turbine can at least provide cooling for itself. Or provide a medium for it to provide cooling for itself. We're just using the same trick we've used with the cooling our space miners and all that. This will destroy some heat, and any heat it does destroy, it pops out 95C water that flows through here, and the tiny bit of cooling it gives out keeps it just below 100 degrees, so it should keep working. So we'll keep an eye on it just to make sure it doesn't get too high or too hot. Over here now, we've done something a little bit different. I have stripped out this area. The reason I stripped all of this out is I want to get hydrogen into this cooling loop down here. We could use pretty much any gas, but I prefer to use hydrogen because that's what I normally use in here for this type of things. And, well, no point breaking a habit right now. So we're going to fill this room with hydrogen, which is why I've dumped it right here. And then we're going to run a little bit of a pipe from there. How are we going to do this? You know what? We'll just go straight through here. Yes, that's going to go straight to the floor, isn't it? Never mind. It'll be fine. We'll put that there. Throw a grass page on. And that will fill the loop. Now all I got to do is hook up some hydrogen to it. Where am I going to find that? Yes, space. In space, this is going to be 3 canister fillers because why mess about? We'll throw in 3 of them. And while that's getting constructed, I should tackle one of the things from the comments. And that is when it comes to, this overflow valve I've got in place, where the oxygen comes up here, and if we don't have enough hydrogen, it's allowed to overflow so we can, dump a bunch of oxygen so we can get more hydrogen. Yeah, what I could just do is get rid of that overflow valve and just hook up directly to the high-pressure gas vent. That would immediately solve the problem without the need for this gas shut-off at all. Yes, there was a few suggestions that I should also do that inside the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen rooms. However, there is a side effect to doing that. If you do get those to shut off in there, there will be a little blob of gas stuck behind the pipe. and it will burst, and it will cause damage to the pipes. It'll liquefy inside the pipes and cause damage. So you really kind of do have to use shutoffs to run these. It's an annoyance, but it's just the way it is. Now, we'll get rid of that gas shutoff. We no longer need that. What the... No, I hit the wrong button. We'll get rid of that gas shutoff, and then we can just finish that. Boom. Problem solved. Are those all full? One of you is missing a gas pipe segment. Who's it? Ah, you. Okay, perfect. Now, if we go back down here, we should be able to select hydrogen and fill this room with it, which should allow us to fill the loop. Ah, there we go. I think they deliver it off at about 10 kilos at a time. Was it 10 kilos? Yeah, something like that. So this will take a little time to fill up the loop, but we're so close to getting this running. I don't care. I don't care. It will be fine. Okay, hydrogen's on its way. There's more. Well, we'll cut back in once that's finished and the loop is done. And I'll do some other side checks just to make sure everything's ready to get this fired up. Final setup stage then. We've got all of that hydrogen loop filled up. The last setup stage is getting the rust fed in and the iron extracted. So this is going to be where rust gets fed onto our conveyor loader. And that will get fed into the system down that way. That will get fed in by that auto sweeper. There should be no duplicate interaction required. And then this is where we're going to dump all of the iron. I think I'm just going to seal it in for now because it's going to be hot. It's going to be some hot iron, and yeah, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm just going to dump it into a box, and we can worry about taking it out later. Once I've just found out how hot it's going to be, maybe I dump it into a steam room, maybe we do something with it, but for the time being, it can just stay where it is. We have plenty of iron. We've already got 554 tons. The amount we're going to get out of this anyway, yeah, we can wait. We can wait a little bit of time. Once that's done, though, I think we can turn that on. That should activate there and run into that system. I think it's time to start prepping the magma. Now, this is going to be an interesting bit. What we need to do is, firstly, block anyone from going in there. I don't want anyone going into this place because, well, that would be bad because they might try and deconstruct that block from this side. Let's put in a quick door. All right, no one allowed into the volcano from the top. That means we can deconstruct that block. Should be able to get at that diagonally. Deconstruction error. Yeah, I think we can get this at this diagonally, and then we can hopefully fill this out so that the magma flows into our little magma blade. There we go. I did have to build a bit of a ladder system to get to it, but that works. That works. And then we just plop down one more brick there. Then we can deconstruct that tile, which is absorbing a bunch of heat, but it's fine. I made sure it was just a regular tile. That way there's less debris left behind, which is going to soak up heat anyway. Another tile in. Yes, this feels very dangerous considering the amount of magma above us, but this is just the simplest way of filling these up, I found. Doing it from the outside instead of, well, you can run a dupe in, but I just feel bad running a dupe in saying, hey, why don't you go take a swim in some magma? Even I have a little bit of a conscience. All right, one more tile there, and then that can go. All right, with that last tile gone, that will let the magma flow out to there. Then it's just a case of flipping that switch. For the time being, I've left this door open. We just want to heat up this area to the required temperature, and I've set this to 1450 C. Oh, this is a magma dropper, exact same as what you would normally use in a petroleum boiler or something like that. The only difference is I've just made it a little bit bigger, and it's set to 1450 C because if you go below that, this magma, well, if you go this magma down to 1409, it will turn into igneous rock. We don't want it. We want to let this cycle out while it's still in liquid form. And all of the waste will just flow down here. Well, you know what? Let's just turn it on and see. I know that tile is not necessary, but just for completeness sake, I want that to be done before we start. All our prep work is complete, I think. Yes, I think enough teasing. Get on with it. Right, we won't turn that on first. First, we will cycle in the new magma. So, above? Okay. So that will fill that section up. Come on. Now, once this is all full up to the top, we're going with 3 sections of magma. Yep, there we go. We set that to below. Boom. Problem solved. Now, as you'll see, the magma here is plummeting in temperature. Namely because it's got to heat up a lot of steel, a temperature shift plate, a steel door. There's a lot of stuff here that's absorbing heat temperature out of that magma. So it might get cycled out very quickly. Well, if it doesn't, it is in a minute when I engage this thermal sensor. This thermal sensor here is designed to melt rust. I know it's not actually in anything at the moment, but don't worry, that will become apparent what we're up to later. For the time being, let's have a look at rust here. Rust has a melting point of 1,534 degrees, well, 34.9 degrees centigrade. Plus, you have to go 2 degrees beyond that. It's the flip-flop temperature. Things have to go 2 degrees above their state change, otherwise they won't happen, or 2 degrees below. This is to stop things just flip-flopping back and forth if they're on the cusp. cuts down on calculation problems for the game. So this, we're going to stick this to above. And that will start draining heat out of here, which is going to drain heat out of here, which causes that to cycle out. And we'll turn this off for the time being. New blobs of magma cycles in. If you've never seen how one of these works, it's actually pretty straightforward. Though one of the coolest things I ever invented, well, at the time I invented it, I was very impressed with myself, I must admit. This detects the temperature. When the magma gets too cold or something like that, or when the temperature you wanted to cycle out has been hit, it sends a signal out here. This signal trips this, which opens this bottom door. And since that bottom door opens, all the magma just falls out. But it has a delay on the signal going upwards, which means it takes 5 seconds before this door opens. And by the time that door opens, it also sends a signal down here to tell this door to close, by hitting that reset switch. So this door's opened, then 5 seconds later, this door closes and this door opens, dropping down this fresh magma, giving us a nice fresh tank. And there's a little bit of automation on that as well. It's just continued on to close that door to stop any excess falling in. Just, yeah, one of the nicer systems and very useful. Very, very useful for a lot of things. Now, over here, we've got a bit of a problem. We've got to heat this all up, but we can't really detect the temperature of the metal. But we'll heat that up in a minute. You know what? We will activate our rust. We're going to let the rust start coming in right about now. All right, rust, time to start joining us. We close that door. You know what? There's no need for anyone to go in there anytime soon. And then the rust starts circulating around. Bear in mind, this is a sort of a counterflow heat exchanger, but there's nothing to flow opposite it. Once this rust melts, it will turn into liquid iron. And then when we turn that liquid iron back into solid, it will just be iron. So you're able to turn rust at a 1-to-1 ratio directly into iron. Now, there's another way to turn rust into iron, and that's the rust deoxidizer. However, that's a little bit less efficient. It takes in 400 grams. Oh, no. It takes in 750 grams of rust and gives you 400 grams of iron ore. So you lose a little bit in the process. My calculator tells me it's 60% efficiency, as in you lose 40% of the mass. This is 100% efficient and completely ludicrously ridiculous. You don't need to do this. But let's just continue. We'll go behind. We'll come up with a reason later, but for now, let's just do it and see what happens. This conveyor rail comes up here and feeds onto this. It goes up and takes a left and then hops across this bridge. The reason we do that is this allows this to just keep rotating constantly. It rotates up through here, there, hops across, and just keeps going round and round in circles, all happily and merrily. Now, this is where it gets a little awkward. I have to sort of turn this on and off a bunch. So we turn that on. Door closes and it starts heating up this area. Now, we don't want to heat it up above 1540 degrees, but this isn't going to be able to tell. For now, don't worry, we improve upon this later. Wow. We'll just turn it off again while the new magma cycle is in. Yeah, we're good. Let's see. Let's drain a bunch more heat out of this stuff. How much magma have we wasted? A lot. Oh, we missed that. The magma flow down here, came straight off the edge, hit this corner. This temperature shift plate sucked the heat out of it and turned it into igneous rock, where it immediately got shunted down here. We're using that nice little sneaky mechanic to force it in there, which is allowing all of this place to get turned nice and warm. And we can use that to heat up these steam turbines later, but that's not important right now. What is important is we're heating up this iron. And someone's having an accident somewhere. We'll worry about that later. 15, 30, 15, 40. Oh, look at that. Some iron just magically appeared. Also, when that iron magically appeared, it got shoved into this conveyor loader. And now it's gone counterflowing back up this direction. We'll see more on that in a bit. But over here, we have to make some changes. 1450 is way too low. Once it goes below the melting point of iron, we're in trouble. So let's say 1470. 1470 should be plenty. Oh, sorry. I did that wrong, didn't I? Yes, it's the melting point of iron, which is 1534. We want this to be about, say, 1560. Let's see if that's about right. Okay. Fresh stack of magma in there. Why is that only 2 tiles high? You know what? Never mind. Not going to worry about it for now. This is heating up. Oh, what are you doing? 1532, 1540, 1550. You know what? You are hot enough for now. We'll leave you off. This is just a little bit of micromanagement I have to do at the start just to get this up and running. Oh, nope. You've cooled down too much. Come on. Heat up. Yeah, it's unfortunate. What we're trying to do is heat this up so hot that we have a blob of liquid iron right there. There we go. And then once we get a blob of liquid iron right there, that will help us control the temperature here. What are we missing? Why did that door disengage? Stop that naughty door. The door disengaged because the temperature sensor messed up. This is a little bit finicky at the start. Not going to lie, this is probably not my most efficient turn it on, set it and forget it design, but once we get this started, we should be good to go. So fresh magma in the tank. Okay, with the fresh magma, we're finally getting some heat in here. Okay, it's disengaged the door because the iron went above 1540. Ah, it's still warming up. Stop doing that. 1474. What's happening here is it takes a little bit of while for this thing to get started up because this iron that is counterflowing is quite hot, but it's not preheating this iron by much. The iron's still quite cold by the time it gets to the front of this, so it takes a lot of time for it to rotate around, eventually get together enough heat, and eventually turn into liquid iron. And because that's so slow to happen, it just means it's very slow to start off. So let me run this for a little bit in the background. I finally set this to 1550 just to try and get some extra heat in here. I think we need to keep this running for a while. We're burning through a fair chunk of magma. Oh, that reminds me. I should maybe engage this door, shouldn't I? If the temperature is below 200 degrees, I want you to engage the door. Perfect. Now that should heat up the petroleum, which should eventually set the across here into that water. Well, it seems to be. Oh, you're very slowly going to heat up. Oh, for this transformer over here, I put it on a little blob of water. It burnt out once, so I put it on a little airflow tile. Made sure there's a little blob of water on there. Stops that from burning out. That is actually what's providing power to this section over here. How are you doing over here? You're not doing too bad. What you set to? 1550? What are you set to dump that out at? 1560. You know what? That'll work. What I made sure was I've got a temperature shift plate right here, which touches the magma and touches the door. So this will just dump heat directly into the door. And this temperature shift plate here sucks heat directly out of the door and dumps it into this steel. And there's a few more temperature shift plates to make sure it spreads. And have we got throughput? Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, we got throughput. Oh, it's like watching ants. Once you look away for a few minutes, everything starts functioning. Okay, boom, boom. There we go. Took a little bit of fiddling to get it started, but now she's good. How are these things coming in at? They're coming in about 1300 C. Let's have a quick look at the temperature overlay. Yep, things are toasty. Things are pretty toasty. So all that's happening is as the hot iron goes back, it dumps temperature into the steel. The steel transfers temperature over into the rust coming the opposite direction. So that's just it. It's a counterflow heat exchanger, except we're just using steel instead of anything else. Now, this is set to maybe just a little bit too high. We can probably set that to like 1545. Just to try and save magma. I mean, we've went through quite a bit of it there already. How are we doing down here? Yeah, that is not going to heat up that water. Yeah, I probably should have thought ahead on that a bit better and put some more water in there. You know what? We'll worry about that problem later. For now, I just want to enjoy the glory that is this. Ah, you beautiful, beautiful little machine. How much iron are we producing right now? That's a lot of iron. Right there, we have 5.7 tons of iron. Okay, reasons for doing this. Honestly, none. I can't think of, well, especially on this map, we already have 562 tons of iron. Making ourselves another 561 tons of iron is not really something we need to do, but it's something we can do, and we can turn all of that into steel eventually, so yeah, why not? As well as that, this whole thing is just a retrofit. This is designed primarily for doing regolith. I just sort of did a little bit of a refit on a regolith design to make it work. For example, down here, you've got these mesh tiles. So what happens is any iron that melts up here, it just sort of flows off the edge, and it falls down into these mesh tiles. And then what happens is this rust that's coming through passes through the tile, and when it does, it absorbs heat from the iron, turns it solid, and then it just sort of gets forced out the side. If you don't put in these mesh tiles here, what'll happen is you'll end up with a block of iron right here, and the iron will flow down on top of it and take on the temperature immediately of the iron that's there, which is usually, well, it's a waste of temperature. We want to preserve as much as possible. So that's just one little tip that's used here. And this sort of E thing here, oh God, how do I explain how I ended up with this monstrosity of a design? Okay, when rust or anything on a conveyor rail melts, it's pretty hard to predict where it's going to end up. Well, no. Originally, it's going to find it hard to predict. For example, if I was to say place the conveyor rail going through this section here, when the rust melts, there's a chance it'll end up inside this doorway. Assuming the doorway was open, it could end up inside that doorway, and that's going to mess with the system. So you need to give yourselves a bit of a gap. Now, originally what I did was I just had, two lines of steel. So you'd have a line of steel here, a line of steel here. There was nothing there, and then I'd rotate it through the outside layer and try and melt it, but that was slow and cumbersome. And then I had to try and fit in temperature control and all sorts of stuff. Eventually, I just decided to, on this sort of design, by putting in an extra tile. This way we have this entire area to rotate to for heating. The liquid iron or regolith will accumulate here, and it sort of rolls off the edge. This allows us to put in a temperature sensor and control the temperature, so we get a bit of a finer management on this. And all in all, it seems to work quite well. Now, as for how much magma this is going to consume, no idea. I honestly have no idea. Who's fleeing? Oh, that's what that noise was. Someone's fleeing because I'm betting there's a poke shell around there. Ah. Yep, that makes sense. I'm going to want them exterminated with extreme prejudice. They're causing problems to our dupes. Uh-oh. I can't remember the last time I saved, and that looks bad. Oh, well. Well, it's far enough back in time that the poke shell hasn't laid an egg yet. So, you know what? I don't want to take that risk. We'll just let that poke shell go away. For our regolith melter, unfortunately, it's before we turned it on, which is unfortunate. I'm sort of out of time. I don't have time to turn this all on again and go through everything. I suppose this is not perfectly efficient as a rust melter. I'd like to point that out again. Some parts of this design will only become really obvious when we start getting into melting regolith later on. This is just to melt the 500 plus tons of rust that's just lying around the map, which it should be able to do fairly handy, even if it eats most of our magma. You know, why not? As for the construction materials, you could probably get away with not making all of this out of steel. I mean, you're definitely going to need steel up here. This will melt your steel. But as you go further back here, the temperature should even out below, say about this part of it. Yeah, from here back on, it should probably be fine to use iron ore or one of the tougher metals from there back. But since the map we've been going on, thematically, we've been using so much steel, I thought, why not just go for it? These here, yeah, you may be wondering why that one's over. That's for regolith. Later on, regolith. Long story. Anyway, sorry about the crash out. That's a little bit of a setback, unfortunately, but there's no problems. I'll just run this in the background and we'll get some more rust going on. Next episode, we're going to, try and power through all the rust. Some quick math tells me this should take about 46 cycles to melt all the rust. Wait a minute, that can't be right, can it? Actually, it will take 47.75 cycles to melt all of this rust, assuming we are doing 20 kilos per second. That's really fast refinement. Yeah, that definitely beats out the refinement brick over here. However, I would like to point out a couple of things. One, this is sort of a power positive process. When you smelt iron, it's a power positive process. When you smelt steel, also a power positive process. Gold amalgam is the only one that's not power positive, and yeah, even then I probably wouldn't use magma. So this is not really something you would use for smelting regular metals. If you can smelt it in a refinery, you're better off doing it. This is more for doing stuff that you can't smelt normally, which would be, rust. That's about it. I'm not sure of anything else. And, regolith, of course, which we'll get into. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my take on the rust melter, and good luck.